Welcome back to the Lights Out podcast, bedtime stories for boys and girls when the lights go out. Good evening, boys and girls. Are you ready for bed? Are you all snuggled up, tucked up, wrapped up, nice and warm, ready for another Lights Out bedtime story? Well, you're in for a treat tonight because we have a retelling of Shirley and the Dragon by me, Martyn Kenneth. Once upon a time, there was a girl called Shirley. She was about 7 years old, and she lived in a house with only her mum. But her mum was not the kind of person to take too much interest in her daughter, and she didn't really listen to Shirley, whatever she had to say, and she didn't really look at her, not in the eye anyways. She tended just to talk at her, even though she was doing other things around the house. So when Shirley was having breakfast, Mum was washing the dishes, talking at her, saying, "Shirley, make sure you eat your breakfast. Shirley, did you do your homework for school? Shirley, eat all your food and go and put your clothes on, get ready." "Yes, Mum." Shirley was quite used to this, because her mum always talked at her without looking at her, most of the time anyway. And she even had her back turned to her most of the time. So when Shirley was doing her homework, Mum was watching telly, she'd say, "Shirley, have you finished your homework? Come on, quickly finish it and go and brush your teeth and go to bed." When she was brushing her teeth from the other room, she would hear, "Shirley, have you not finished brushing your teeth yet? Come on, hurry up." When she was in her bed, her mum would come in and be tidying around and putting things away, and talking at her like, "Quickly, get to sleep." But she was making so much noise, it was quite hard to get to sleep. But this was just something she was used to. Well, there was something else quite, let's say, interesting about Shirley's house. Although she didn't know it until recently, and that was, it had a magic bathroom. Shirley didn't know this until one day. You see, Shirley didn't have a shower in her house. She just had a bathtub in the bathroom, and her mum would fill up the bathtub full of water and make sure it was nice and hot. She would put in some toys like a rubber duck, and then Shirley would get into the bath to have a wash. As she was doing this, her mum would usually come in and start washing the sink and start cleaning and washing the floor and doing all kinds of stuff. As she was cleaning the mirror to make sure that the bathroom was all nice and sparkling clean, she would be talking at Shirley. But one day, as her mum was cleaning the sink, she started to complain to Shirley quite a lot. "You should have a bath more often. All your friends have baths every day. Why don't you have a bath every day? Why do you never want to have a bath? Your hair's smelly." She was complaining so much, Shirley didn't really want to hear it, and so she held her breath, nipped her nose with a finger and a thumb, and slipped underneath the water so she couldn't hear. But suddenly, as soon as she slipped her head underneath the hot soapy water, she popped up, and she was in a river, in the cold water, and she looked up, and there was a big grey castle. She had all her clothes on. In fact, she was wearing knight's armour. What's going on?" she said to herself. She couldn't believe it. She thought she was in a dream. She tapped her helmet and, yeah, it's real. So she put her head back under the water in the river, and she was back in a bathroom, in the bath with all the toys. "Mum, where have I just been?" Her mum wasn't listening as usual. She was still complaining about the homework and schoolwork and all kinds of stuff. And Shirley went to bed that night thinking, what just happened in the bath? She couldn't wait until the next time she had a bath to go and see what would happen again. And so, not the next day, but the day after, Shirley's mum said, "Right, you, time for a bath. I'm going to fill up the water and start cleaning the sink." So Mum filled up the water to the top with nice hot water and put some toys in. Shirley got in. The water went right up to her shoulders, and the mum started to complain again, talking about homework and not eating enough food and not keeping her bedroom clean enough, and friends and all kinds of stuff. You know what it's like. And so Shirley tried it again. She held her breath and nipped her nose between her finger and her thumb and slipped her head under the water. And she came up, and there she was again in the river next to the big grey castle. This time she jumped out of the water and started to walk around the castle. It had a huge, big drawgate bridge, and she wanted to get across, but the bridge was up. She threw a stone at the gate, and it went down slowly. As soon as the gate touched the ground, she walked over it and walked across the water, and she was inside the castle gates. She could hear a huge noise and some screaming. It was very scary, and so she just turned around and ran back and jumped in the water. And as soon as she jumped in the water and put her head under and lifted it up again, she was there, back in her bathroom. Her mum was still washing the sink and scrubbing the mirror, complaining. And Shirley quickly jumped out of the bath. "Have you finished washing? You've only been in there like a second." "No, I haven't." Shirley said this because she knew she'd been outside around the castle for about 30 minutes. She couldn't believe it again. She went to bed that night and couldn't sleep well. Even when she did sleep, she had a very bad dream. In the dream, she heard the terrible noise again, and it was stuck. She was stuck in a dream and in a nightmare for about 1 hour. But the funny thing is, in the dream, she got to walk around the castle. She could hear the screams, and she followed the noise, and she saw, when she looked up, there was a princess stuck in the tower, and the terrible noise was actually a huge dragon that was wrapped around the tower, trying to breathe fire in and trying to get the princess. Because it was quite a terrible dream, she woke herself up. Knowing it was a dream, she breathed a sigh of relief, and so she closed her eyes again and went back into the dream, and she walked around and around the big grey castle, and in the dream she tried to figure out how to save the princess. She could see the terrible dragon was wrapped around the tower and probably wasn't going to let go. I don't know what to do, she thought. And she woke up again. It was time for school. "Shirley, it's time for school. Why are you always late? Come on, get up. Come brush your teeth and wash your face. Get ready for your breakfast," her mum said as she was getting the clothes out of the closet. Shirley spent the day in the school, and at lunchtime she ran to the library and started to look for books about dragons and how to get dragons away from princesses. Maybe how to kill one. She spent the whole hour at lunchtime. She didn't have any lunch in the library, and just as she was about to leave for the class, she spotted a book right high up on the shelf, and she saw a shiny dragon on it. She asked Mr. John to get it down for her. He went up the ladder and brought the book down, and then the bell rang for class. She put it in a bag and ran in to learn in the classroom. On the bus on the way home, she opened up a bag and pulled out the book with the shiny dragon and started to read all about dragons and what they were scared of. She took it home and did all her homework, and then took the book to bed. And on the last page, she found out that dragons are scared of water, and they are very scared of very high-pitched noises like squeals and screams. And if you whistle really, really high, or if you make a really loud, high-pitched noise, dragons don't like it. And so, she had a dream again that night, and as she was dreaming, she had to look around to see how she could make the noise and how she could get some water to get rid of the princess, to get rid of the dragon that was trying to get the princess. Because she knew it was just a dream, and though she could hear the screams of the princess and the roars of the dragon, and feel the flames coming from the dragon's nose, she knew that she would wake up soon. But she had to work fast. She knew she was wearing the knight's armor in a dream, and so she could take off her helmet, fill it full of water, and if she could somehow swing it and throw it at the dragon, maybe it would work. But what about the noise? She remembered that a long time ago, her daddy had showed her how to make a noise, like a high-pitched noise, from a piece of grass in his hands that he blew into. And if he swung it around, maybe it would make the whirling noise by getting the air into the grass, a really high, high-pitched noise. So she thought what she could do is, maybe she could get some string and get the grass and tie a helmet to it and fill it full of water, and when she would swing it around and around, maybe it would make the noise, and she would let it go, and it would fly up into the dragon, and the water would go on the dragon so that it would fly away and leave the princess alone. So she woke up the next day, and she went to school, knowing that night was bath time, and that she had to save the princess, or else maybe something bad would happen. She got off the bus and ran straight home and said to her mummy, "Mom, can I have a bath right now?" "What about supper?" "No, I really want to have a bath now." Okay. So Mum filled up the bath with hot water as usual and put the toys in it. She started to clean the sink and started to complain. "Well, why you always have a bath? Why don't you have a bath after your dinner?" Shirley didn't listen. She jumped right into the bath and quickly nipped her nose and slipped under the water. And there she was in the river next to the castle, in the knight's armor. She thought she had to hurry up, so she jumped out, took her helmet off, found a piece of string and grass lying on the bank. She tied it to her helmet, got some water into the helmet, and she filled it full of water and started to swing around and around. She swung it around and around, and after a minute the noise started to come out really loud. She looked up at the tower with the dragon wrapped around it, and the dragon stopped breathing fire. Its head turned and looked straight at Shirley. "Oh no!" She swung faster and faster, and the noise got louder and louder, and soon the dragon looked scared. His head started shaking, and he covered his ears with its big wings, and he jumped off the tower and flew away. Shirley didn't even have to throw the water at the dragon. So she stopped swinging it round, and she held it in her hand, and she looked up at the princess, who was looking out of the tower to Shirley with a big smile and a look of relief on her face. But then, as she was looking at the princess's face turned very scared, and she said, "Look out!" The dragon flew back and tried to blow a fireball at Shirley, and she tried to grab Shirley, but she ducked. Shirley knew she had to swing the water again and again, and she swung it round and around and around, and the noise was coming out, and the dragon grabbed its ears with its wings, and so it couldn't fly, and it fell and crashed into the ground in front of Shirley. Shirley let go of the helmet full of water, and it flew right and hit the dragon in the belly, and the water splashed up all into its belly, around its neck, and made the dragon start to steam and melt. The dragon flew off. Shirley could watch it flying away into the distance and knew that it was never going to come back again. She ran up the tower, opened the door to the princess, and the princess said, "Thank you so much, you saved me. I don't think the dragon's going to come back again." "I hope not," said Shirley, "and if it does, get some water, and here, I'll show you how to make the high-pitched noise with this piece of grass and string." So Shirley taught the princess how to do it, and the princess taught her daddy, the king, and the king taught all the men and the soldiers and the knights, and so they all had these whistly things that they could swing on their helmets, and they all had water ready so that they could put it in the helmets and swing it round if the dragon ever came back, and they could defend the castle and the princess. Shirley was happy because she'd done this, and she went back and jumped into the river and disappeared, and came back, and she was in the bathroom with her mum, and her mum looked right into her eyes and said, "You were under the water a few minutes, are you all right?" And Shirley said, "Yes, I am." And so now that Shirley knew she had this magic bath full of water, every so often, maybe once a month, she'd go back under and just come out into the river to check that the castle was all right, and every time that there were no dragons, so she knew that she'd done a good job. She'd been able to save a princess from a dragon. So now she had to work out how to get her mum to look at her when she spoke at her. And that is another story. The end. Well, hope you liked that. It was a retelling of a story from a while ago called Shirley and the Dragon, inspired by John Burningham's story, Shirley Get Away from the Water, I think. Anyway, that's here on the Lights Out podcast, bedtime stories of boys and girls, and magic little ones. Please don't try this at home. Good night.